Hello and welcome to my channel again, because I know I just uploaded like a few days ago, but my name is Naya. As you can see, I am dressed up because this is a special occasion. You know, I have my glasses on, I have my little turtleneck on, giving the girls Steve Jobs, giving the girls TED Talk. You know, this is serious. For today's video, we will be going over a lyric analysis of D-2 that I did actually a year ago. But I just felt like now, 4th anniversary is more apropos than it was a year ago during a whole bunch of other concurrent situations that were happening. And some of you who follow me on Twitter may have already seen some of these thoughts because I wrote them down, like I said, a year ago. And I did share them, but I never like really fully went into detail. But yeah, so that's essentially today's purpose. Before we get started, I just want to give a big shout out to Doolset. Those are the translations that I will be using today from her website. So I'll have her website and her Twitter linked down below. Go check her out. All her translations are always so phenomenal because she also gives like historical context as well as social context and cultural context, and it's just all really great. And she does a lot of work for us for free when she doesn't have to. So please do support her, follow her, all that good stuff. And yeah, make sure to like, comment, and share this video, and subscribe as well if you haven't already. And we're gonna jump right into it. So like I said, I already kind of did notes and whatnot on the album a year ago, and so I'll kind of just expand upon some of those notes and thoughts today. With this analysis, it'll be comparative as well as just like reflective, and then also just, you know, things that I had picked up that I thought were really cool or that I felt connected across the boys' discography, and other verses that they've used before that I just wanted to like point out. Obviously, as like a disclaimer, I don't know Yoongi, you know, I don't know what goes on in his head. I don't know his personal life. All I know is the information that he has given us and shared with us. And so I'm just going based off of that. I do not intend to overstep, and I'm going to try not to. I feel like I was very cognizant of not overstepping my boundaries when I was making these notes. If I do, you know, let me know. But yeah, it's really just my feelings and how I interpreted his art that he shared with us. I'm just gonna go down the list of how it is on the album and then just give my thoughts and whatnot. It'll be primarily about the lyrics, but I might also mention the production or how the lyrics and the production mirror each other or complement each other. So, you know, we'll see. The first song is Moonlight. Now, I'm not going to say like the Korean names because I know I'm going to butcher it, and I respect the language too much to do that, but it's titled Moonlight. Doolset, she gave more context and said that it's literally translated to that moon. When listening to this song, I really loved how like old school it sounded. It's very quintessential like Yoongi, like, you know, that typical like old school like hip-hop. That's what he loves, him and Junie love. Very laid back and groovy, and I enjoyed that. As for the lyrics, if you see me looking down, it's because I'm like looking at the notes that I've already written and I kind of want to stay true to them because I do kind of still feel the same way that I did a year ago. But in the lyrics, I remember liking how much he allowed us to see into the process of his creation, essentially the good, the bad, and the ugly of what it takes to make peace with himself and his music. The kind of like acknowledgement of his internal struggle is very reminiscent of his previous works. I enjoyed that kind of like connection in terms of his content and his work. A lyric that I really liked was, and just like a heads up, when I do the lyrics, sometimes I'll leave some words out in order to make what I have to say about this lyric makes sense. It's not that I want to like change his wording or anything or the meaning. It's just like, just to make it concise and cohesive. And so the lyric said, "A lot changed in my life, but that moonlight is still the same. Changes are fated to happen. Perhaps how we change is what our undertaking is all about." And I think that lyric is so interesting because I see it as Yoongi coming to terms with the fact that the only thing that doesn't change is change itself. Whether he likes it or not, things have changed, he's changed, and his situation has changed. And because of this, he mentions later in his lyrics that the ideal fights with the reality in his mind. One thing I found really interesting is that he mentions that there's no eternity for anything, but then proceeds to talk about how people call him immortal. There's that juxtaposition of like what he knows and what people are telling him, and I could see how that causes an internal struggle. And this actually reminds me, I've been thinking about BTS's existence in general and how it exists in a world of extremes. They basically went from nothing to being the thing. Either people adore and idolize them, or people just show them extreme hatred. There's almost no in between. So like seeing Yoongi talk about it doesn't really surprise me. Another really good lyric that I enjoyed was him saying, "But I'm still hungry. Would this be karma? The emptiness that I feel after flying so high." And this kind of reminds me of lyrics from The Last, where he mentions that his success, or his monster, is so greedy and it wants more and more wealth that it begins to swallow him. It consumes him essentially. And we once again get to witness him in this conundrum, because he knows he deserves this success, but it's still overwhelming. He doesn't want this monster to consume him, so essentially he just grasps on to the sole reason he even started this journey, which is his music, and just keeps running. As per usual, he is very resilient, which is how BTS usually is. You know, though they like describe their struggles and trials and tribulations, they always leave off on a note of like hope and possibility that things will and can get better. Moving on to Daechwita. Do not flame me if I just got that wrong. I'm trying my best. In this song, I thought it was so interesting because it was just so essentially Yoongi. Like, he's a proud Korean, but like his affinity and love for hip hop blends in, and he shows that it can coexist and that it can create something new and beautiful by blending both the cultures. And so I really, really enjoyed this song. As for the lyrics, it's Yoongi just really talking his shit, like literally just being like, you all suck, which I thought was hilarious and not really surprising, to be honest, even though a lot of people were surprised. I mean, for me, I understand that just because BTS don't talk about the shit that they hear from other people talking about them doesn't mean that they can't and won't address it. They just choose not to, you know, like they're nice because they choose to be. You know, and I feel like oftentimes people misinterpret their kindness and their want to be left alone as them being weak, and that's not the same. So I enjoyed this song. I enjoyed him calling other people flops and whatnot. Like, it was hilarious to me. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But something I thought that was really, really interesting, and this is me talking about how the production and the lyrics kind of complement each other, is that he spends most of this song talking about his status and his success, but then towards the middle, the beat gets quiet and he kind of goes back to talking about the greed that his success creates. It's like he kind of lets that inner demon talk for a bit, which I thought was really, really cool. Once the music kind of like empties out, the demon's back. And I think that kind of goes back to like Moonlight, talking about music and it being his vice as well as his safe place. So it's really, really interesting. I saw it as kind of like a reality check, like a self-humbling of sorts, like where Yoongi's like, yeah, they're all below me, but now I'm all alone all the way up here. And then he kind of says it where he has nothing above him. He's like constantly grappling with the double consciousness of being a celebrity in both himself at the same time. And you can see that kind of reflected in Moonlight as well. And I know double consciousness is not exactly usually used in this context, but you know, humor me. Now moving on to what do you think? I actually really, really enjoyed this song, even though she was like the topic of a lot of conversation when it dropped. But I thought it was very interesting to see Yoongi like blatantly address a lot of the issues that BTS have gone through. One of my favorite lines was where he goes, "Your gags are so, it's your fault that you're fucked. No." Like, it's so funny to me when BTS kind of like take on that like troll mentality of like, you know, it's really not my fault that you suck. Like, I need you to like fix that, fix it before you address me. And I think that's so funny. I love seeing them like this. And I thought it was so genius of Yoongi to essentially pretend to take in their opinions before telling them that what they think doesn't matter. It kind of reminds me of that like meme where people are like, don't care, didn't ask. Yoongi was like, don't care, didn't ask, plus you suck. Another lyric that I really, really liked was where he directly addresses the whole military enlistment thing, where he's like, we'll go serve in the military when the time comes. I hope all those bastards who tried to get a free ride by selling our names shut their mouth. And that's like a direct hit, a direct sweep of all the entertainment companies that use BTS's success and achievements in order to try to get them and their groups and idols out of mandatory enlistment. And that happened in like, I want to say like 2019, I think. Because I remember, because BTS had literally just left Korea to come to America, and while they were in the midst of traveling from Korea to America, this whole thing like blew up, and they were getting tore up on all these, you know, like Knet's platforms, even though they weren't the ones who were doing it. Like, I remember thinking that they waited until they left so that they couldn't defend themselves to do that, and it was such a shitty thing to do. But I'm glad that Yoongi actually adjusted. Now, moving on to Strange. Now, this is literally a top 3 song on the album. Everything about this was just so immaculate, truly just chef's kiss. Honestly, I could go bar for bar, word for word with this song, but I'll just pick out the lyrics that I really enjoyed, just to spare us all. The first one was the line where it says, "Capital injects morphine called hope as collateral for dreams." And it's just like, phew. From the jump, they were just like, just clearing the place. But like, what else would you expect from Namjoon and Yoongi, to be honest? I love how this sheds light on how capitalism insists that we are all just predestined millionaires and we just need to keep working and earning money until we're content. But what they don't tell you is that this hustle is at the expense of losing the majority of your life. We essentially slave away with the hopes that we'll eventually be rich and happy. And what Yoongi and Namjoon are saying is that we give away our dreams and ambitions in exchange for achieving capital in a system we didn't ask to be in. And that was just like, I was like, yup. Yup. And it actually kind of reminds me of a lyric from Joey Badass's song Paper Trails, in which he plays on the acronym CREAM, cash rules everything around me, and turns it into cash ruined everything around me. And I just thought it was very interesting that it's along the same vein. It's really cool. Another lyric is, "In this endless zero-sum game, the end is entertaining to watch." And this is just Yoongi and Namjoon saying that, like, none of us will win this game. Literally none of us. And what we're in is a perpetual cycle that will just continue to go on and on until the system in its entirety is dismantled. And then when you get to Namjoon's part, even the opening line, I was like, yup. Yup. Where he's like, "Oh, you think you got taste? Oh, baby, how would you know? I mean, for God's sake, everything is under control." When he says this, you know, it's the essential, like, how do we even know that we like what we like? You know, do we like it because we like it, or because we think we like it, or we've been told to like it, or we've been socialized to like it? You know, like, how do you even know? Literally, how do you know? And then the part where he's like, everything is under control, you could look at it 2 different ways. You could look at it like, one, as in like everything is being controlled, or you could look at it like, don't worry, everything is under control. Depending on the context and tone of that one sentence could literally bring peace or shivers and fear to someone. And I think that is so cool, like how loaded that could be dependent on how you interpret it. I just think it's awesome. Later on in the song, they mention that we are all chickens in our coop, and about how we fight about whose coop shines and who has it better. And I thought it was a really great way to tie in that "my feed explains me" line, like maybe a play on words with like actual chicken feed and then like social media feed, as if the quality of our feeds, whether it be our chicken feed or our social media feed, determines how much better off we are. Okay, moving on to 28, and it's also translated as "Perhaps I'm gradually becoming an adult." I really enjoyed this one because I'm in that transitional period of coming out of being a late teen to being in my early 20s, going on mid 20s soon. So I really enjoyed this perspective from Yoongi, because essentially this song is just about emerging adults and us realizing that time waits for nothing and no one. And it's kind of sad. As he talks about this realization, he acknowledges that when we're younger, we like hold on to the belief that we just had to wait until we got older for our lives to get better, or that's what we thought. But then we got older and then nothing changed. And now we're in this state of like confusion and just lost because we don't know what to do now. All the goals that we set through our adolescence to get through our adolescence have now either been achieved or are unachievable, and we still aren't happy. And actually, the stress of adulthood is not something that they even prepare you for. which is why so many people get to this point and end up having to gravitate towards a vice, whether it be drinking, smoking, whatever it is. The last lyric that I really liked was just one day without concerns, just one day without any worries, to live, to live, to live. It makes me think of how oftentimes adults say that they miss their adolescent years, or like when they tell younger people like you need to enjoy while you have it, because when you go all the way up then you're gonna miss it and all that stuff. But to me personally, I don't think that they really truly miss their youth as much as they just miss the lack of expectations, and they miss the lack of responsibilities life expects of you. And I can say this because I often feel like this as well. Moving on to Burn It featuring Max. I love this song. This is also in the top 3. Lyrics aside, the production is phenomenal. Max did a great job as a feature. He added so much to the track, and I'm so happy that Yoongi was able to connect with him and not only find a fellow artist in him, but also a new friend. For the lyrics, there were like 3 lines that I felt really stood out. First was, after having a taste of success, how am I different from the me back then? Well, there's no difference. Let's burn the past me. And I thought this was interesting because this is him acknowledging that who he was and who he is are the same, but he still wants to burn, because he mentions wondering what would be left if he were to burn. Would he finally reach his deepest places, which actually ties back into Black Swan verse, in the deepest depths I saw myself? Or would he be left with nothing? Like, would nothing change and only remain the same? Another lyric I really liked was, whether it become a blazing sun or the ashes left behind after being burnt. At this point, regardless of the outcome, he's setting whatever lives in his deepest places free. He mentions weakness, hatred, loathing, even rage. So that might be what he's setting free, but he acknowledges how he responds to doing so, to setting them free, is entirely up to him. The last lyric that I really liked was, I hope you don't forget that giving up decisively also counts as courage, which I thought is such a beautiful line, because it's true. It takes a lot to give up. It's scary leaning into the unknown, so it is brave to give up. And I interpret this as him recognizing that like he could come to peace with his deepest places, or he could completely ignore them, disregard them, give up. And no matter which one he chooses, which path he follows, it took courage to do so, which I thought was beautiful. It's a beautiful message to tell yourself, and it's also a beautiful message to tell others. Okay, moving on to People. Now this is literally my favorite song on this album, and I think it's so ironic because when it came out, it was my least favorite. Like, hands down my least favorite song on the album. But it's easily climbed its way up to my favorite song on the album, and then one of my favorite songs in general. Like, for me, it's on par with Everything Goes from Mono. It holds that much weight for me. What I really liked about the song is that he starts off painting a really beautiful picture where he talks about a gentle breeze rushing past him and soaking him like deep into his heart. It is such a peaceful and like beautiful picture to paint with his words. And then he goes and he begins to like ask very introspective questions, like what kind of person he is he a good person, is he a bad person, what qualifies you to be either or. He decisively comes to the conclusion that he's just a person. Like everything else, he will live on, he will eventually fade away and eventually be forgotten. So then that begs the question, why so serious? When you like put in perspective like that and remember that like at the end of the day we all will pass and move on, why do you take things so seriously? Another lyric that I really liked was where he's like, living a life in the world, there's nothing that lasts forever. Everything is just a happening that passes by. And that kind of ties into the lyric about the gentle breeze that passed by him earlier in the song. Once again, it reminds me of Everything Goes, which is also known as It Passes on Mono. Namjoon also kind of mentioned facing the wind of life and allowing his sharper edges to be dulled to find peace. And I think that's kind of similar to what Yoongi's kind of saying. Yoongi says that even though we might cry, shed tears, get upset, get hurt, that it's all good. How we live is essentially just how we live. And I like to mention that this song sounds like an intimate conversation between two friends at like a cafe, you know, between the listener and Yoongi, where he's just kind of catching up on life with you, which I really enjoyed. I think the overall message for this song was that everybody is just trying their best within their means. It's just all about your perspective, to be honest. Moving on to Honsool. I hope I said that correctly. I thought this song was very interesting because from Doolset's notes, the idea of Honsool comes from a trend in Korea where one practices spending time drinking alone as a way of healing. And I feel like that explains why this beat makes him feel so like isolated, kind of, because like I said, he plays on the fact that this is about a drinking practice in their culture. He says in a lyric, I detoxify myself with alcohol. The contradiction of detoxification and then also drinking is just so interesting to me. He mentions doing so to cleanse himself of his like daily schedules, which insinuates that he uses this drinking time by himself to come down from the high of his everyday life, and once again kind of talks about the overwhelming reality of his success and how he's just really taking it day by day. And this song actually does kind of really remind me of the song Day and Night by Kid Cudi. Obviously Yoongi isn't a drug addict, but it kind of has that same sense of solitude that I thought was present in Kid Cudi's song. Moving on to interlude Set Me Free. There's not really much you could possibly say about the song, but I did like the way that the production complemented the lyrics, because in the beginning there's like birds chirping. In the opening, birds usually have wings to allow them to fly away, to carry them away, and I think that plays into like the set me free aspect, and it gives a very strong sense of freedom. So I thought that was cool. And one lyric I thought that was really interesting was when he said, set me free, knowing that it won't go the way that I want, knowing that it's not what I want. I'm floating freely in void. So I'm thinking back to like Burn It, where he insinuated setting free whatever was in his deepest places, and perhaps this is his deepest place talking. I don't know, this is just me and how I interpret it, because like I mentioned in Black Swan, in the deepest depths I saw myself, and maybe this is that self speaking. Regardless of the correct meaning though, I hope Yoongi finds peace if he hasn't already. And finally, on to Dear My Friend featuring KJW of Nell. So, oh man. I'm going to try to get through this without crying, because I've only listened to this like literally like maybe 2-3 times, because I just can't. I just can't. Every single time I listen to it, it literally makes me sob. So good luck to me. Just to start off, my heart aches for Yoongi, because he's been carrying this around for so long, or he had been carrying it for so long, and it's so personal and almost feels invasive to even be listening to it. But I'm glad that he felt comfortable enough to share this with us, because regardless of how I feel, this is still his art, and I'm just lucky and honored that he allowed me to witness it. One of the lyrics that I really liked was, countless days with the two of us, even the world is nothing to be afraid of. We who used to say so now walk on completely different paths. And this one really hit home, because I can't imagine that somebody you started life with, who used to walk on the same path as you, ending up in a reality that is worlds apart from you. And I think what makes it worse is that Yoongi could feel the separation building, because I've lost friends, and so I know the feeling of growing apart, and it seems like Yoongi harbors guilt for not having tried harder to remedy this tear, this separation, and I understand that too. He ponders what would have been if they had stayed friends. If he had done more, would that have even changed the outcome? And the saddest part is that like he'll never know, and that weighs on him. The last line that I really liked was when he said, and when I saw you for the first time in a while, you had become a completely different person. There was no way to bring you back. You had become a monster. And to me, this is the saddest part of this entire song, because this is when he finally realizes that he's lost this person in more ways than one. Like, yes, he lost this person to drugs, but he also lost this person to life in general. And regardless of knowing all this, he still misses this person. He misses who they used to be. He makes a point of constantly mentioning how much he misses this person. And it kind of reminds me of Namjoon's Spring Day verse, where he says, I miss you. Saying this only makes me miss you more. I miss you. Because it's like once Yoongi starts saying it, he can't stop. And I also noticed, I believe that it was revealed when this came out that Yoongi had used his Spring Day verse or something similar, or he referred to it or something. I can't exactly remember, but he used it in this song. And I remember back when Spring Day was released, listening to his verse and reading his verse and thinking that whatever he was talking about, whoever he was talking about, he had not elaborated on. Like, there were still some things, some parts of it missing. I mean, I'm sad for him, but I'm also happy that he could finally get off his chest and finally have some artistic and musical closure for this person and for the situation. I'm not sure how he's dealing with the situation, personally, in his real life, but at least in his music, it has now come to a close, which I'm happy for him for, but I also hope that he finds peace in real life as well. Now we finally reached the end. This is just overall thoughts. My overall thoughts are that I just love Yoongi. I love him so much, and he is just so brave, and I'm so proud of him for fighting as hard as he does. I really just want him at peace. Like, I feel like he deserves that, because he's lived like 9 different lives. Like, I feel like he finally deserves peace. And I hope that in releasing this project, it was cathartic for him. I think that's how you say it? Cathartic? Therapeutic? And I hope that he eventually gets to the point where he no longer has to fight. I really, really love this project. I'm so happy that he allowed us to see it and be privy to his thoughts and his feelings and his doubts and his fears and all that. And I await the moment that he releases another project if he wants to. So yeah, that was my review, my lyric analysis. Hopefully it made sense. I'm hoping it made sense. Thank you for sitting here and watching it. If you'd like to see more lyric analysis of like other projects the boys release, or even some songs or whatever, just let me know by leaving a comment down below, or adding me on Twitter, or sending me an email, whatever you prefer. I'll see if I have enough to talk about that topic in order to make a video out of it. If not, it might be something I answer on like Twitter, like question and answer session or something. I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, please do remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Bye.